And there's a high level of reluctancy. And I don't think it's stubbornness. It's just not bought in that that's effective. But there's been a couple people that have started doing it and we're like, wow, man, like this is a huge help. And it's a good reminder to heed my own advice every now and again.
Every single individual has a story to tell, and they're great stories that need to be heard.
I want every listener to know they have the ability to change the world.
Welcome to the 1720 Podcast.
What's up, Mountain Movers? Welcome back to the 1720 Podcast. I love every single time we do these virtually, and I kick this off, you pull away from Mike because you start laughing.
Yeah, because the transition from nonsense to recording is 0.00 seconds, and somehow you'll just go quiet for a moment and then kick it off, and I can't take it, man. I just have to lean out and laugh over here on the side, but yeah.
It's like going on the highway and you lock up the brakes.
That's exactly what
from weirdness to serious.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. Because we were just making fun of me for not remembering the URL to get on here, and then you're like, and
action. Clap.
Yeah, yeah. So, anyways, I had to scoot away to get my laugh on. But
yeah.
Anywho, all right. So I don't know. What are we talking about today? I suspect we got something. We've brainstormed a few things. We're trying to pivot into some subject matter stuff. I know you have a few thoughts. We've brainstormed back and forth. Hit me with something.
Hit you one time. It's halfway through the year. I mean, we're already burning through July, and it's a really good time to reflect and recalibrate on what we set out to do at the beginning of the year. So often we can lose sight of those things. You pull up your goal sheet and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot I wanted to be that person.
Yeah.
And that happens commonly. So I'm in this season too, and we'll go into that a little later. But I do want to share some story time first.
Yeah, there were two. I forgot what they were. I was trying to scroll back through our texting, and I couldn't. There's too much in there to figure out what the two stories were, though.
Yeah. So I had a dinner meeting with some friends.
Oh, yeah.
It was at Bob's Steakhouse, which thank goodness I looked at the calendar invite because I didn't know of the Lemon Avenue Dallas one, which I heard is the OG one. I was going to go to the Omni. If I would have just autopiloted there.
Yeah. Like green awnings, OG. Yeah. That's the old one.
So I, because of traffic, if you know that area, I snuck in through the back alley, which I think is frowned upon because it apparently when I was leaving is valet only, but nobody was out there at that time. I parked my car. And so I'm getting out and this dude gets out of his Mercedes.
Oh yeah, not just a Mercedes, but go on.
Yes. And he gets out and I look at him and him and I are making eye contact. And I'm like, what up, Bishop? And he just chuckled and he's like, what's up, man? And, right on the spot, I was able to give him some praise because there have been some transformational things that he said in Global Leadership Summit, on social media, in the pulpit, that sort of thing. But it was Bishop T.D. Jakes, man, which was super cool. And he couldn't have been more gracious and kind. His driver took a picture with us together, which I think I sent you yesterday. Yeah. Just a super kind guy. But he's got those nuggets, man. I know we've talked about it on here about Global Leadership Summit, and my notes are thicker than this notebook that's chewed up by my dog. But he drops these one-liners, and I remember one time he was talking about vision, and he's like, there was a first person that was looking up at the ground and looked in the sky and said, I belong up there. Talking about the first to fly, and what's that dude's name?
Who? The Wright brothers?
Yeah, the Wright brothers. There you go.
Yeah. There are other folks who might have the claim to that vision, but a point well taken, right? It's someone had to do it.
Yeah. So the visionary that decided, I'm going to be up there. I belong up there type thing.
That's a good thought too, because let's just credit the Wright brothers for it. I don't know that history would necessarily agree with that, but for the purposes of a conversation, they say that out loud in a crowded room, and everybody else is like, "You guys are stupid." Right?
To the loony bin, get the straitjacket.
Right, get those brothers out of here.
Yeah.
But someone had to have the first thought. Someone had to be a visionary around it, and for sure, surrounded by naysayers who were saying that's not how we do it.
Yeah.
That's not how that works. That's not how this is you can't do it like that. That'll never be successful. This makes no sense. Right. So yeah, someone had the first thought, and they persevered through all the naysayers to get from there to that weird flying contraption that they marginally call an airplane. But in any event.
Yeah, man. And, it was special to meet him. And this year, in the past like 2 months, I got to meet two awesome Kingdom dudes with Craig Groeschel and now TD Jakes, kind of back to back in the grand scheme of things, who obviously run together with GLS and all that.
Well, when you sent the Groeschel photo, I saw the one with you and him, and I was like, oh, I immediately knew who that was. Ignorantly, when you sent the TD Jakes one, you were like, it's the Bish. And I was like, that's not David Foltz.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because I sent a picture to Foltz. I said, Bishop, meet Bishop. That's all I said.
Yeah, I was like, well, that's obviously not Foltz, but I couldn't place who it was. When you said it, I was like, oh, right, of course that's who it is. But it took me a minute. I was like, I can't figure this out. So, but also to your initial point, dudes who are doing great, huge, enormous things. So.
Big time. And so I posted that picture to Instagram, and somebody asked me to ask you, because we're at Bob's Steakhouse. It's a fancy place.
Oh, yeah.
To ask about a story where you may or may not have been kicked out or not let in because you had a classic Stewie QZ on.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good story.
Was it Bob's?
No, it wasn't Bob's. It was, boy, I don't know how much of I should or could tell. But it's true, that part, it is true. I had gone so me and two buddies were meeting up for dinner, and I had gone, we had basketball all that day, so I had gone to the restaurant from a tournament. And so I had on jeans, sneakers, QZ, and a ball cap on backwards. And I've been at a gym all day, right? So I was hustling from one thing to the other, and I had no idea where we were going for dinner. Like, I had no idea. I just knew I needed to get someplace. I map quested it, if you will. Map quest.
You had the printouts on your passenger seat, old man.
Yeah, then I printed it out on my dot matrix printer, and anyway. So, but I just show up, right? I just go into what?
I can't get. I'm just imagining you with an atlas the size of your windshield. Where's dinner?
Yeah, we got the maps go out. I was in E7 trying to get to dinner, and boy, like 6 people got that joke. In any event, so I pull up, and it doesn't, like, on the outside, it's normal, like a Dallas, whatever, not super duper fancy, but pull up, valet the truck, hop out. Go inside. It's still to this minute thinking nothing about a dress code. Like, I'm a grown man, I'm not worried about a dress. Like, I'm not trying to be fancy, right? Go in, and a guy in front of me, they check in, they get him to his seat or whatever, and I step up and I was like, hey, we have reservations for dinner under so-and-so's name. And they're like, oh, okay, hold on 1 second, please. And they like start chittering, and I'm like, well, I don't know what they're, whatever, And then the lady comes back to the hostess standing. She's like, sir, we have a dress code, and you're not going to be permitted to dine with us tonight. And I was like, huh? Like, this literally doesn't make any sense to me right now. To which I had some righteous indignance and was like, whatever. Okay. So I left, called the folks I was meeting with. I was like, dude, we're not eating here. Apparently I'm dressed like a bum and didn't know I needed to be. To which one of the people that was meeting me said, like, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. Just sit right there. Just sit tight. Like, okay, whatever. We'll figure it out. So I just sat in the truck, waited till they got there. And eventually one of the guys I was with went in and made a humongous stink about it. Right. Like, I was like ready to go. I was like, fine. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. He made a huge, like, full Karen stink about it, and eventually convinced the folks there at the restaurant that they didn't know what they were doing, and that I was, in fact, someone who was very important, and that not letting me in was a big mistake. And then he came back out and he was like, hey, I worked it out. And I was like, what?
Now you don't even want to come back in.
Right. Now I don't even want to come back in. But also I have the guise of they have been convinced that they don't know it, but I am someone very important.
You should have came back in barefoot.
Right. I actually thought like maybe I just take my quarter zip off and go in a t-shirt. I had a t-shirt underneath it. Like just rolling in a t-shirt and huck fin my pants and go in now.
That's right.
Just barefooted.
Just strutting right through like a peacock.
Yeah. So I did the best I could to not do that. We were seated and ate, and the meal was fantastic. We had a great time. But yes, for the first time in my entire life at age 44 and a half, was denied entry to a restaurant on the basis that I was not dressed properly.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That gives me flashbacks of college being a bouncer, and that was part of my job.
Kick people out who don't look dope.
Yeah. That led to some dicey situations, I'll say.
And you're kicking out more bros than you are girls. You're like, oh, all the guys got to go.
It was always bros.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's the job of a bouncer at a nightclub in your 20s is to kick out all the dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the story. I think mine's not as good as yours, but I do appreciate story time. It's just the kicking around of nonsense every once in a while. So,
do you happen to have a picture from that night?
Yes, I do.
All right. Now we know what our picture post will be.
I'm not sure I will send that to you actually because
Come on.
Man, it was like a across the table snapshot from someone I was dining with in the midst of me being like super mad about it. And so
perfect.
It
sets the tone for the episode.
Remember, I had a baseball cap on, so I had taken my hat off when I sat down. My hair was completely like looking like a rooster, and I was just so mad, trying to get over myself. Right, so I was being quiet, but you can tell I'm so mad, and yeah. I'll send it to you.
It'll be a split screen of Bishop, Kevin, cranky Rooster Stewie in the lineup.
Rooster Stewie is so dumb. All right, I'll see if I can find it. I think I know who sent it to me. I'll see if I can find it. Yeah, but it's a real gem for sure. It's a real gem. All right, let's see. I'll find it and send it after we hang up here. But that's not my finest moment. Anywho, yeah. So back to the sort of topic du jour of checking out on your goals. Honestly, when we talked about doing that, I looked at the calendar and thought, well, we missed this by about 3 weeks to get your mid-year checkup on, right? Because that would have probably been the skipped 4th of July episode because that was the 3rd on a Monday and we skipped it. So probably appropriately there, but better late than never a few weeks out, to just check in, reflect, reset, assess, because as you commonly say, we're only halfway through the year. To chalk up anything right now as a L is a huge miss because you still have 5.5 months to rechart, recourse, replan, reengage, re-energize, whatever the case may be. So
yeah.
And I know you're doing some talking, coaching, counseling, probably not the right word, with folks about doing some of that. So what are some of the themes you're seeing in that as you reflect on your 6-month progress and try to reset those goals? What sort of themes do you see?
Well, there's a different spectrum of people, right? You have people that never set goals in the beginning of the year. So if they're just going through the motions or having a tough year, the time is now. Don't start collecting some things that you want to work on later. Start cranking those dials now. And then there's folks that maybe made those goals in the beginning of the year and then lost sight of them completely, either didn't write them down or just didn't track them at all. And this is the time to pull that back out, pull that journal back out, that goal achieving worksheet, whatever you have to refresh your memory on what you set out to do so you could do an evaluation. But then,
well, let me, you said a keyword there. I'm going to send this back to you, but you had circulated, maybe you posted it in a DM or maybe we dropped it online or something, the goal achieving worksheet that you put together. So talk a little bit about that just in case you missed the beginning of this year when we talked through goal setting and goal achieving, what the worksheet looks like and how you use it.
Yeah, it's landscape format that dives into the whole person. So we're focused on work and career as a category. And then we're focused on fitness and health. We're focused on our spiritual life. And even if you're not a follower or anything, that could just mean quiet time. And what goals do you need to set around just pushing away from the desk or the madness for a few minutes to reset and recalibrate? And family. And so there's those buckets of goals, But then the two types of goals are consistency goals and stretch goals. And consistency goals are ones that you're able to do with the person you are today. You just have to keep showing up and doing them. And then the stretch goals are ones you can't do with the person you are, but with some hard work and dedication, maybe you can get there. And so it's a great time to figure out, are these consistency goals feeding this stretch goal? Do I feel closer to this stretch goal? And if you haven't set any of these yet, the perfect time is now to start laying out some consistency goals. And so I can just, since there's a broad spectrum of types of people, there's something for everyone in this season to take some action. For me, I look at my goal achieving sheet and we're crushing. Like, it's going really well. And what I find out through tracking these year over year is some of these consistency goals, like reading the Bible every day, any sort of tracker on workouts, filling out my MyFitnessPal app for fitness, they're automatic now. So why would I waste another 6 months of something that's just a part of me now? And it's not an overhaul. It's just, if you think of these as dials, like, what's one notch I can crank a little further, because this is so automatic now that I don't want to become complacent. And so one example for my health is limit bad snacking to 2 times a month. And I've been tracking that in a spreadsheet, and halfway through the year, I had 11 bad snacks. So I was one short of the goal.
Yeah.
That feeds my stretch goal of 10% body fat, which I'm at 9% right now. So, like, stretch goal achieved, but I don't want to take my foot off the gas. I want to keep going. So the crank of the dial is, sometimes when we're working on these things and they become automatic, other bad habits or weaknesses start surfacing in your life. And so for the first time in my life, I started snacking at night. I've never done that before, ever in life. But now I'll wake up at 12, 1 a.m., whatever, and I'll go in and eat something. But even if it's a healthy snack, that's still throwing off my routine, like peanut butter or like a Quest bar or something like that.
Yeah.
It's quote unquote allowable. So what I did was, okay, second half of the year, the accountability is, if I do that in the middle of the night, even if it's a healthy one or an allowable snack, that's going to count as one of my bad snacks. So I've just cranked that dial one notch to try and improve it.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I want to prevent from, okay, I've reached 10% or below body fat. Now I'm going to gain it all back because that goal's over. No, this is just who I am now. Now I just need to take this one more notch.
Well, that goes to the health goal there. You transmute that across all of the other ones, and you could see how you if you don't constantly reflect on it, constantly revisit it, constantly reassess it, you start to derive either complacency around it or generate exceptions to it.
Yep.
That begin to, is kind of what you're saying, I'm just saying it differently, but they begin to erode at or eat at the intent and the progress. And so it doesn't do any good to like set, what was an old like infomercial, set it and forget it. You remember that? Or is that just me? It's like
I know that saying.
Yeah, it's like it was from an infomercial, like a crock pot or something when they were, anyway, you don't get to set it and forget it. You have to set it and revisit it and check on it, which again is why we spend 30, 45 minutes of your life talking about it in the middle of the year every year, because you might have forgot. You might need to revisit it. You might need to spend some time tomorrow, like cleaning off your desk of work and pulling out the worksheet or whatever the case may be. So.
Yeah, and this is for the people that are crushing it so far. They laid out their goals and they're smashing them. What is it uncovering? Like, what weaknesses are now exposed because those have become strengths or those have become automatic? And so I'm coaching some people that have made radical transformation in 6 months that's now surfaced some not so radical things that they want to improve. And so now that's the focus. Like, look, those have to be automatic, because that's who you are now. That's your identity. Now let's go change these things. And for me, it's not like, it's not a 180 for me, but like looking at the tribes of my life. All right, I want to lean into faith a little bit more. Like fitness, check. Right. Family life is great. Like all those things are going really well. What does faith look like when I really dig in? Like I'm reading the Bible every day. I'm going to church every single week that we can. I'm serving in youth ministry every week that it's open. Praying regularly, but still like something feels missing. So it's like, okay, all these things are going to go and keep going that I've set out to do. I'm not going to abandon them. They are automatic now. Now, faith, what does the second half of the year look like? So the moves I've been making are setting up intentional coffees and lunches with people that they're ahead of me in that category.
Yeah.
You know, like when I hear them talk, faith is just so natural. I'm going to wait on the Lord. You know, like the patience behind that, how naturally they talk about him. And it's really made me look internally and be like, what are you struggling with? And, you know, I'll give Sean Surface some credit, man. Both of his books that he recommended, I'm digesting right now.
Yeah.
And so the power of now is what I'm listening to in the car, and that's about being present, because I spend the bulk majority of my time with a negative emotion about the past or a separate set of negative emotions about the future, like fear, doubt, anxiety of what's to come, and I'm missing today.
Yeah.
Like I'm not missing this interaction with you, but once we hang up, where does my mind go? And it likes to go everywhere. And so that is being complemented by what I'm reading at night, which is When People Are Big and God is Small. And that book, that's gut punch city for me, because I would say on the scales, like if I'm being honest with myself, people are above God. Like how do I flip that script a little bit? And so reading a book at night about that and just being intentional and how it's helping is this past Sunday at church, like really listening, because I'm present, listening to the worship music. And when they're singing, he's the one above it all, rather than just singing it out loud. It's like, he's the one above it all.
Right.
So why am I putting all this pressure if I'm serving a purpose that aligns with him? Like the fear of trying something new, like that keynote speech that's coming up in a couple days. Like why would I not do that if it aligns with a purpose to impact the kingdom, impact people? Like who cares about the eyeballs? Who cares if I stutter? Who cares if I blank out for a second up there? I'm serving his mission. And if he's happy with me and loves me, then like, what is there to worry and be concerned about? And so like these are the reflections I'm doing of like, okay, all this is going really well. These next 5 months, I'm leaning into this and let's see where we can go.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I feel like I do this more often than not. When we get started riffing on something, it reminds me of something else that I've looked at, but it's usually something from either the Daily Dad or the Daily Stoic, but I don't know if you subscribe to the Daily Stoic, but today, the topic for today was your mind is not your friend. The idea of what you just said is like, as soon as we hang up, like your mind starts going all over the place and you start worrying about this because your mind is like spinning out of control. So I'm going to read from it for just a second to kind of home in on that point. It says, how would you describe someone who lies to you? Someone who riles you up, someone that makes you anxious and afraid, someone who questions whether you're good enough, someone who has preposterous blind spots and disturbing biases, who prods you to suspect the worst of others, who tricks you into doing things you'll regret, who encourages your worst impulses. Obviously, that's all loaded. This is what our mind does to us on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And then it goes on and talking about like your mind can be trained. Your mind it can be your friend, but it is not by default your friend. So yeah, these are like meditations from the Stoics, like ancient people. This is not a derivative idea of like, oh man, 2023 is different because there's so like it's like how humanity is programmed. Like our mind is designed for whatever reason, and that's how it works from time to time. And you have to be aware of it so that you can fix it, so you can train it, so that when you have that impulse, you can say, stop it.
Yes.
We're not doing that right now.
And where this is really kicking off is, you know, for the longest time, I've had sleeping trouble, you know, that I've tried several different medications, all this different stuff. I'm reading at night now. And if I want my brain to shut off, like that's not just a light switch at the end of the day. That, you know, I've tried that. It doesn't work. If I've not worked that muscle throughout the day, the likelihood of it working at night is next to zero. Mm-hmm. And so like to that Daily Stoic, we have to think ahead on things and plan ahead with our jobs and our families and all those things. But it's being able to have the power to choose when you do it. Yeah. If that makes sense. So like in a car ride, rather than focus on 17 things, maybe I clear my mind and think of absolutely nothing and then choose. Now I'm going to start thinking about that keynote. I am choosing to start preparing for it. I'm going to move something to my prefrontal cortex and like, we're going to solve this now. Man, if we can, if I shouldn't say we, if I can solve that, wow, what a superpower that would be and an improvement in my life, because it's always thoughts and emotions and stuff like that. And the biggest tip from the book so far has been saying out loud, what is my next thought going to be?
Huh.
And every single time, I'm actually getting the chills just saying it. Every single time, nothing comes to your head. And they say, hey, that brief second you felt that, you can go get that full time. Like if you go work at it.
That's interesting. What I was going to say, and I don't know if you do this or not, but do you pre-program thinking time? Like I have spots on my calendar where I'll be like, there's a problem percolating that I need to think about, like seriously think about and solve it. But right now, like I can't. And so I'll go on my calendar and I will block a meeting with myself. Like I do, thinking time / whatever the issue is. And then so when that idea like zips into my brain randomly, I can trap it and say, no. I'm thinking about that tomorrow. And like just dismiss it. And so that gives me the space to say, okay, I know I need to think about it. I know I need to resolve it. I know I need to process it, but now's not the time. I have some preordained time for that. You ever do that?
A half yes to that answer. The half yes is that's the gym for me. So, hey, I got to solve this problem today. So like, again, like figuratively move that idea to my prefrontal cortex and be like, we're solving this on this run or this lift today. And then I'm like intensely focused on that. And then boom, the dopamine's up, endorphins flying. All of a sudden I get those quote unquote gym visions.
Yeah.
But the answer is no throughout the day. When something creeps in, I'm like, no. That's for a later time. I'm not there yet.
I just had an idea that I've never had before. I'll say it out loud and you can tell me it's stupid. Is like you, the proverbial you, I know you, but me too. Like keep a to-do list, a list of things that have an actionable item, right? I need to do that thing. And usually it means sitting at your computer or drafting or some tangible something. I think I'm going to start keeping a thinking to-do list.
It's a great idea. Getting it on paper is a great idea.
Well, and it gives me the chance to say, no, I'm trapping that idea. And I've added it to the list and I don't need to worry myself with it. For those instances where I don't need to like create some preordained time, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud actually around that idea, but like having a list of things that need to be thought about as opposed to a list, as opposed to a to-do list. Maybe I need to create a to-think list and start charting those things separately. I don't know. It's just an idea.
There's like, I'll merge two of those together. So with the goal achieving worksheet spiritually, like whether Christian or not, like pushing away for 5 minutes and just collecting your thoughts or not thinking at all, like we're just talking about, but just not jumping to the next thing, like figuring out where in your calendar you can make that a color in your calendar to just push away.
Yeah.
And I get so much resistance to that in coaching because people say they don't have time. And my answer every single time is you can't afford not to do it. Yeah. Like you have so much going on that you have to do this.
Yeah.
And there's a high level of reluctancy, and I don't think it's stubbornness. It's just not bought in that that's effective. But there's been a couple people that have started doing it and we're like, wow, man, like this is a huge help. And it's a good reminder to heed my own advice every now and again. Like I got a priority pie, I call it. So I got this to-do list and stuff, but like, where is the time to just push back? Like you don't need an hour. Like maybe you just need 5 minutes before you just jump to the next thing to just breathe, box breathe, pray, read, whatever your mindless thing is that helps you disconnect for a second. Maybe, and a lot of people need that in the afternoon. So like phases of the day, I have a routine for each phase of the day. One of the phases of the day is after lunch. People have a very crush morning, right? They get after it. They work out. They have all their meetings.
Right.
Then they eat lunch and they just can't get the car restarted for the afternoon. Maybe that's what they're missing. That spiritual piece, that meditation piece, that quiet time piece, just to center themselves and collect their thoughts. And, especially challenging for me, not being an analyzer in any personality profile. Like if I just freaking sit for a minute, I'll have a more effective afternoon.
Yeah. This isn't related to what we're talking about, but what you were saying about just creating that space and pushing back for a minute reminds me of something I read this week that I actually did today for the first time, and it was awesome. Usually my calendar gets back to back to back to back, right? It's 1 to 2, a 2 to 3, a 3 to 4, and all that sort of thing. And today I had a meeting that was at 9, and it was 9 to 10, and then I had a 10 to 11. And at 9:50, well, I went into the meeting thinking I'm going to wrap this thing up 10 minutes early so that I can create that space and to like sit and take a breath and catch my thoughts and prepare for the next one instead of just scurrying in with a dog chewed notepad and my hair on fire. And
Dig at me.
I wrapped the meeting at 9:50. It wasn't like an awkward wrap. It was like, all right, I think we got everything done we need to accomplish. There's no reason to, like, all right, I appreciate your time. I'm going to come back to my office, sit down, catch my breath, think about the next meeting for just a minute, reduce the thoughts that I had from the prior meeting down to some action items, and then zoomed over to the next one, right? That was a game changer for me in terms of like managing like my mind and the spinning of all the things and the worry that I've forgotten something is to just, and it comes back to intentionality, which comes back to the goal setting component that we were on previously, is like, if you don't have a routine, if you don't have a default, you don't have some SOP around the stuff, including the goals that you're working on, you're not going to get there.
No, you're gonna stay there, and it's gonna be more full time that you just react from thing to thing.
Yeah,
like at this point, I need 5 minutes. If you and I have a solo, I need 5 minutes to collect my thoughts. So at 2:55, I can write a few things down. Good to go. It's literally 5 minutes. That's all that's needed. Your time frame might look a little different, but that's all you need.
Right.
And I'm a firm believer now in the, like, we manifest our identity, so like the swearing goal, right? I'm from Chicago. I'm in construction. Therefore I swear. No, I could change that identity.
Yeah. Right.
And like drinking, like whatever the case may be, like I'm this is as good as it can get. Yeah. I mean, if you're saying it repeatedly, most likely that's the best it's going to get.
Right.
So here's my hot take. I'm starting to cook on 2024 goals. I'm not ready for it yet, but starting to toy around with this whole, I'm all in. I'm an all or nothing guy. I'm 0 to 100. Blah, 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 blah.
You realize you're about to rifle me in the face. Right.
Well,
here.
same, dude. Like I am that guy because I've manifested that identity. And I think there's a lot of strength in if I'm all in on the thing I'm currently doing. But the problem is that's not the case all the time. So my hot take is for a family goal next year, just label the stretch goal, find 50.
Yeah.
That's it. And so what is the consistency goal that I can feed into that stretch goal, which I don't have cooked yet? I'm just starting to reflect on this thing because my family neither wants me at 0 nor 100. Both are annoying. Like, so if I sit on the couch, it shouldn't take a frying pan or a shovel to scrape me off that couch. And I'm saying no to everybody. What does that rep look like if I sit on the couch and then my daughter or wife says, get up, I get up happily. Yeah. Find 50. So I'm like starting to bake on that one a little bit because I know we're manifesting identity with our words and our thoughts.
Yeah. So I'm interested in like wrestling through. Boy, we just get off on a tangent. I'm interested in wrestling through that with you too, because Ashley and I have had some conversations recently about how what I used to perceive as a superpower, 0 or 100, that's a superpower because it's not my problem or I'm all in and I'm fixing it. Is not a superpower. It could be if used properly.
In some instances, absolutely.
But by default, if everything comes to me and I either have to disregard it or dominate it, well then how much stuff gets sucked into my orbit, right? Couple that with being a people pleaser and everything comes into my orbit and it's at 100 and I'm revved at red line because everything's 100. I can't not be at 100. Yeah, you can. You can be at 50.
Totally.
You can be at 50 as appropriate.
If you want to.
Yeah. And sometimes it's appropriate to be at 50.
And it takes work.
Yeah. Sometimes 50 means, I trust you with this. Do you need any help from me? No, you got it. Okay. Let me know if it goes awry. We'll check in a week. I don't need to be micromanaging and in your business and giving you all the advice and forming I'm at 50. You got it. You know? So I don't know. I don't know exactly how to like manifest that idea or write those words on the wall, so to speak. But I'm down for that because I would love to find 50 also. I've been saying it slightly different. Saying I need to learn to intermediate, like just figure out where I need to be. Like not just say it's either a 0 or 100 period. I need to figure out like, where do I need to be? Maybe it's 50, maybe it's 75, maybe it's 20. I don't know, but I need to learn to intermediate and be at the right spot on stuff.
Well, and that's the cool thing about life, dude. Like, that's in my book. I'm all in. And like,
Yeah.
the current condition is, okay, I know I'm all in. I can aim that in a very positive direction.
Yeah.
And so let's go do that. And that's what I've been doing for a few years. But okay, now how do I upgrade that? How do I, again, turn that dial one notch? So like all in on what I'm currently doing. Yes, I want to keep doing that when it comes to like my work and my output and all that. Not home. Let's turn that dial a little bit. And I would consider that a stretch goal. I can't do that with the person I am today. That's going to take a consistency goal or two to feed that, which I don't have figured out yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm down for that. We'll figure it out.
Yep.
Probably here on the air, and someone else will benefit from the machination on that idea too.
Oh, dude, whether I flopped it or it was
Yeah.
a success, I'll share either way. I'm an open book nowadays.
Yeah. All right. So I guess not that we're wrapping, but to kind of put a point on all of that really meandering journey there is, you're halfway through the year. How'd you do? Reflect on it. How you doing? Chew on it. How you going to do? Keep moving forward. What do you need to do different? Recalibrate. So that's the short answer, or the short version of all of it is, assess, reassess, and move forward.
Yep. It's worth it. Do it.
All right. I think that wraps us up, Kev, unless you got something else you want to chew on it today.
No, sir.
All right. Well, until we see you guys next week, y'all stay out there and keep moving mountains.